If you played Flash games between the 2000s to mid-2010s, you may have unknowingly stumbled upon some of the games from Yahoo Korea. These games can be identified by their highly saturated color palettes and cutesy aesthetic. Hi, it's Ploopy, and if you couldn't guess as to what our topic of the video is by now, I highly suggest you work on your context clue skills. Trust me, you will need it desperately, especially for some of the games I'll be reviewing today. But before we jump ahead of ourselves, let's first talk about what Yahoo Korea was. For some background info, Yahoo Korea was launched in 1997. Later on, the kids' website for it was launched on March 1st, 2000 before being shut down 12 years later on December 31st, 2012. On it, they hosted a variety of shows and games, including the Avatar Star Seal series, which I'm sure that many of you are excited for, so stay tuned till the end if you want to see me going over them. I promise you that it's something you don't want to miss out on. Now, back to what I was saying. Besides games, the site also had two mascots, Cuckoo and Yaya. They can be best described as two kids dressed up as a bear. The original animations featuring these two were mostly nursery rhymes, and in it, they would just shake their head side to side as they stared directly at you without blinking. Definitely not ominous in the least. Later on, they would get a 3D reboot and blah blah blah. You know what? Enough about these two kids cosplaying as a bear. You guys probably came here for the games. Plus, I have a lot of tea I want to spill on some particular developers, so let's get into the games. However, before we do so, don't forget to sub to my channel if you want to see more content like this. As of me recording this video, I can see that we are about 300 subs away from 1,000, so please help a girl out. Thank you. Let's start with the I-Mizzi games. Their roster consisted of dress-up, makeup, and room decor games. These games can be identified by the I-Mizzi logo on the upper left, of course, and the 4 buttons on the right. The last button would give you hints on how to dress up the characters. However, I never followed any of the suggestions because, to put it bluntly, they sucked most of the time. Like, I mean, look at this. Would you wear this? I don't think so. Besides, it ruins the fun in coming up with your own outfits. Unless you can't make up your mind on what to wear, then I guess the hint button is somewhat useful in that case. Like the Roy World games I discussed in my previous video, the I-Mizzi games also varied in its art style. It would range from really cute to your sleep paralysis demon. How lovely. Out of all the dress-up games I played, the one I most vividly remember is the Disney Princess one. I think something about the overly sparkly eyes with their teethless smile ingrained itself into my non-existent prefrontal cortex as a child. Yet, despite this, somehow, the Snow White in this game is still a better representation than the one in the latest Disney live action. Pretty ironic considering that a knockoff did a better job representing Disney characters than Disney themselves. One thing that really irked me was the fact that I wasn't able to layer the outfits how I wanted to because of some technical issues. For example, when I try to have this girl wear her stockings, it would cause her skirt and shoes to pop to the back. And then when I try to rearrange it, something else would happen, and it was just a whole mess. I tried to make it work multiple times before finally deciding that she would have to go out in the cold stockingless and possibly face hypothermia. But you can't put the blame on me because I gave it my all. It was the game that decided that she wasn't allowed to wear stockings. Anyways, this whole ordeal just really irritated me and kind of ruined my experience while playing the games. However, my My soured mood was turned around when I discovered that I could strip the characters of their hair completely and make them bald. I even considered turning some of them into Miss Worldwide before deciding against it, which is such a loss on my part. Next time, I'll do it, trust. There was also this other incident where I stripped this girl of all of her clothes by accident. I swear, I didn't know. What happened was, I wanted her to wear this shirt, but her undergarment was in the way, so I was trying to rearrange it so that the shirt would, cover it up. And in doing so, I accidentally removed all of her clothes. I swear it was an accident. Please don't arrest me. I even put her clothes back on immediately once I discovered this fact. But yeah, those are some little incidents I had while playing these games. Accidental stripping aside, let's talk about the makeup games. I know, crazy transition, but anyways, for these one, you have to drag and place the items manually. Fortunately, I didn't face any layering issues this time, so it gets an extra point for that. The style is pretty consistent amongst the games I chose, well, for the most part, because I don't know why, but they suddenly decided to go all realistic with the facial proportions in this one particular game. I was totally fine with the huge sparkly eyes that filled up 2/3 of the face, and even though it may have been a little unnerving at times, the realistic face was just flat out unsettling, so I did the best I could by using my ultra super makeup technique, layering all the eyelashes on top of her eyelids. It may be a little heavy on the eyes, but it's better than being the inspiration for the next YouTube analog horror series. Actually, I lied. The eyelashes did not fix her uncanniness. It just made it worse. Anyways, let's just move on from that. So next up are the room makeover games, aka the best type of games. If you never played these before, then you're missing out. But not for long, because luckily for you, I will be giving you a run through. I know, I'm such a gracious person. You're welcome. Basically, in these games, you're given a set of items that you have to rearrange. For I-Mizzi, they tell you where to put it if you use the hint button. Unlike the dress-up games, I actually listened to the hints for once because of how ridiculous some of these items are. Like, how was I supposed to tell that this thing was a toy box and that this thing was a part of the pillar? There was just no way. Unless I was the developers themselves, which I'm not, unfortunately, because I would definitely remove some of the items here. Like the stack of books/boxes here. Who keeps that much junk on their coffee table? Most certainly not I. Also, I have 2 games here that I would like to add to the list of analog horror inspo. The chocolate box decoration one, and this bedroom decoration one. Specifically, the girls featured in them. Something about how they're drawn makes it seem like they're going to peek at you from the foot of your bed and tickle your feet while at it. Ugh, just the thought of it makes me shudder. No wonder I had so many nightmares as a kid. I was left unsupervised playing these games. If I had to rate I-Mizzi as a whole, I would give them 4 out of 5 stars just because of how frustrating the dress-up games were. At the same time, I can't be too critical because I was still able to layer my outfits somewhat, so I'm not that mad about it. Just kidding, it's getting 3 out of 5 stars because what do you mean Miss Girly here can't wear her sweater because her man wanted to tuck his shirt into his pants? This is literally misogyny on a whole other level. I've never even experienced this in my whole life. Have you? Whatever, let's move on to the next set of games. I'm actually going to just speed run through this because there's not that much content for them, Ironic considering the developer's name is Ncontent. Anyways, their games were pretty to look at, don't get me wrong. I really enjoyed the sound design they went for, especially with the little bubble pop sound effects for when you picked items up. It was so nostalgic and such a vibe. Plus, the little end screens were super cute. Sadly, beyond that, the games were quite lackluster in terms of content. Although the outfits were really cute, it was hard to mix and match it because of the way they were designed. I mean, you could technically switch things around, but it just didn't feel right because deep down inside, you know that's not what they intended. Another thing is that half of the items were dresses, so you didn't even have the option to pair it with something different. It was at instances like this where I preferred the previous style of games where you could manually drag and drop things. Sure, it was a hassle dealing with the layering and trying to align everything, but at least you have the option to come up with your own outfit. With all these factors into consideration, I am going to have to give Ncontent a 2 out of 5 stars. Though I do understand that these games are technically intended for children, so there's that. The next developer I have on my list is Ggames. If you thought Ncontent was lacking, wait till you see what Ggames has in store for their dress-up catalog. Once again, Ggames has that cutesy-esque art style that just hits you in the face, and I'm not complaining because I like it. They also have a fun little end screen for when you complete your outfit. Love that. But unfortunately, like the Ncontent games, the outfit choices were pretty boring because everything was predetermined once again. Additionally, a lot of the characters were from other IPs, including Legally Blonde, Titanic, Harry Potter, Gone with the Wind, and Catwoman. I'm sure there's a lot more that I didn't include, but these were just a few of them. Before I even start talking about how ridiculous some of the outfits in these games were in general, I need to talk about the Catwoman one first. For the most part, the outfit choices in this one made sense. Like, I knew what they were referencing or what the direction they were going for. I even applaud them for trying to come up with some of their own outfits. However, there was just one itsy bitsy thing that did not make any sense to me. Why on earth was Seiya's outfit in here? And for those who don't know, Seiya is a character from Sailor Moon. And I don't remember there being a Catwoman x Sailor Moon collab. At least none that I can think of. So how do these two franchises even intersect? Did they just like Seiya's outfit so much that they were itching to put it in one of their games? I have so many questions about this, and I don't think they will ever be answered. So let's just go on to my other critiques. In general, these games face the same issue of mixing and matching, but even worse because this time you can't even change the hair. I didn't even know it was possible to make limited options even more limited. As frustrating as it is, at least they did try something different with this vending machine style of gameplay. How it works is you click on the item and pick it up on the bottom. Although the options are still lackluster, the novelty factor did intrigue me a bit, so I'll give it that. To be honest, I don't have much to add to my critique of these games simply because of how boring they were and how similar they were to Ncontent's. Though luckily for me, Ggames made other types of games as well, such as makeup and hairstyling games. Even though there's not much going on in them, they were surprisingly more fun in comparison to the dress-up games. In the makeup games, you can change the character's eyebrow as well as their eyeshadow and eyelashes. Basically their whole face you can change. And that's already a lot more fun than what we had going on earlier. Though I am a bit sad that I can no longer stack the eyelashes, but thinking back on it, maybe that's for the better. The hairstyling game in particular was oddly reminiscent of the Sue Salon game, only less stressful this time because boy oh boy, the Sue games are on a whole other level. And once again, these Korean games do a better job of representing Snow White than Disney themselves. Yeah, I'm not going to let that go. Honestly, Disney's latest projects are no better than content farms. The only difference is they have a higher budget. That's literally it. Okay, side tangent aside, let's talk about the scene creator games. Not gonna lie, I was a bit skeptical about these games at first because based off of the dress-up games, I thought everything was going to be predetermined once again. Luckily, I was proven wrong, and I got the chance to rearrange the items myself. I really liked how some of the stuff was even animated. I think it added some extra pizzazz to these games. And although the art style was a little creepy looking, at least I didn't have any issues with rearranging the items. Looking at you, I-Mizzi. I enjoyed how chaotic you could get with the decorations because there wasn't a limit on how much you could add. I even found myself creating little side stories in my head as I was decorating. Don't send me to the psych ward for that. I assure you that is perfectly normal. Anyways, because of the makeup and scene creator games, I think I will rise Ggames rating to 3 out of 5 stars. At least, that's what I would have given it if it wasn't for this quote-unquote African dress-up game. I don't know, something about it rubbed me the wrong way. Perhaps it's the fact that some of the outfits were outright culturally insensitive. Yeah, no, I'm going to have to lower that rating back down to 2 out of 5 stars. I don't play with that. As disappointed as I am, and you guys probably, we can't dwell on this and must move on. So let's go on to the Ibravo games. Oh my god. How do I even convey my love-hate relationship for the Sue games? On one hand, they are so fun and creative. Each game is bound to be different from the previous one, and I love that. On the other hand, they can be downright frustrating. Let's start off with the games that didn't get my blood pressure boiling. First up is Sue's Beauty Makeover. In it, you had to help with Sue's makeup depending on what she's acting in. If you don't know Korean, that's fine. You can guess what type of makeup she needs by referring to what type of hairstyle she had and using some common sense. Clearly, I was not very good at that based off of some of my scores, but let's not talk about that any further. On the bottom are 4 hearts. If you use the wrong brush on the wrong item, you lose a heart, so be careful not to misclick. This includes picking up the brush and just not picking anything. The other game I liked was the charm bracelet making one. This one is mostly a memory game and you just need to figure out which beads to use and where to place them. Even if you do forget, there is a book to help with that, so don't worry if your memory is not that great. Another bonus is that the game pauses when you open the book, so you don't have to worry about scrambling to make the charms. Overall, I would say that this game was pretty chill and didn't require a lot of skill. Well, technically, if you can't tell your shapes and colors apart, then it might be a little difficult, and I would consider going back to primary school. After that, next up on my list is the date dress-up game. So in this one, I had to use Google Translate because there was no way I was going to figure out the date location with no context clues. In it, you have to dress Sue up depending on where she's going for her date, and I didn't really understand this one because I would choose one place and ended up at another. Maybe it's because I didn't dress up before the allotted time? Honestly, this shouldn't come as a surprise considering the fact I'm never on time for my meetups. Now that I think about it, that's the most probable explanation as to why Sue never dressed appropriately for her dates. It was because I was taking too long to decide on a fit. Whoopsies. Luckily, I did manage to figure it out at the end, so I guess Sue will be going on that second date after all. Following that, I have the hair salon game. Compared to the other one I played earlier, this one was a bit more difficult. But I mostly chalk it up to the fact that the reference pics they give you are way off. Like, the hair color and hairstyle was nothing like what I expected. I mean, how was I supposed to figure out that this was some sort of bob? The final outcome looked completely different from the tiny-ass reference they give you. Well, now I can relate to how hairdressers feel when their clients come in with a reference pic taken at the worst possible angle. Honestly, they deserve those tips. And even though I am complaining about this, the hairdresser game still wasn't as bad as the next few games I'm going to show you. Let me just tell you to brace yourselves for what is to come. So if you've been with me for a while, thank you for being a real one, you would know I have some beef with this Sue snack game. It is literally the bane of my existence. In it, Sue is hungry, so she needs a little snack. Nothing too crazy, right? Well, her teacher wants her to starve, so she must eat in secret, and the only way to do so is by hiding behind her classmate. Now, this would be lovely if it was the only thing that we had to worry about, but alas, it's not. Besides hiding, you also have to avoid the teacher's gaze using your arrow keys to avoid her eye beams. And the worst part is, this game is so finicky that even if you manage to hide behind your classmate and avoid the teacher's gaze, somehow the teacher will still catch you because she has X-ray eyes. And it's totally not because I suck ass at this game. Okay? Whatever, let's move on before steam starts forming from my ears. The next and final game that got on my nerves on this list is this chocolate one. Well, technically, I did set myself up for failure for this game, and you may be wondering, Bloopy, what did you do this time? Well, let me just give you a little run through of how the game works. First, they have you dress up Sue. Easy enough. And depending on how many points you rack up during this dress up part, that's how many chocolates you're going to have to make. Unfortunately, I didn't know this when I played it, and I ended up racking 60 points, which meant that I had to make 60 of these little chocolate thingies within the given time frame. Unfortunately, the max that I was able to make was around 30. However, I definitely think that I could beat this game and the previous one if I spent more time on it. Additionally, if you have any tips, feel free to leave it in the comments down below. And who knows, if we get 1,000 likes on this video, I will stream a playthrough of all the Sue games. Well, maybe not all, maybe some. All is a little ambitious. As for the overall rating of the Sue games, I would give them a 5 out of 5, because even though they were downright infuriating at times, I had a good time still. And also, they were a huge part of my childhood, so it gets some bonus points for that. But yeah, that is all I have for this video. Let me know what you thought about these games and if they unearthed some memories within you. For me, the I-Mizzi and Sue games were the most nostalgic ones because, let's be honest, you couldn't avoid these games if you played Flash games, right? Like, especially the Sue ones, they were everywhere. In fact, did you know that there's a Sue Instagram, an official one? Like, how did I not know about this? Did you guys know about this? Well, whatever, at least we all know now because I don't gatekeep. And speaking of Instagram, I also made one. I I think on there I will post some behind the scenes stuff as well as my art. And I will probably do some like community events in there as well, so please give it a follow if you're interested, and the link to that will be in the description. With that said, I think I will end this video here and see you guys next time. Ta-ta!